The first 10 hours after a blackout. What no one is ever prepared for. Listen, the first 10 hours after a real blackout are nothing like what people imagine. People think of a blackout as an inconvenience, something temporary, a small disruption in an otherwise functioning world. But when a blackout is systemic, when it hits water pressure, communication networks, transportation flow, medical infrastructure, and human behavior, you're not dealing with an inconvenience anymore. You're dealing with the opening chapter of a crisis most people have never mentally rehearsed. And the funny thing is, everyone believes they'll figure it out. No, you won't. Not unless you know what actually collapses first. The first thing nobody prepares for is water, and this still surprises people. Everyone assumes water is something you'll get to later because it feels too boring, too distant, too trivial to prioritize. But in an urban blackout, water is the first system to fail silently. Water pressure begins dropping in the first 20–40 minutes, and most people are still standing in their kitchens, staring at the dead Wi-Fi signal, completely unaware that the city's physical infrastructure is already choking. By hour 2, entire apartment blocks lose consistent flow. By hour 5, the majority of upper floors lose access entirely. And by hour 10, you can't get water without physically moving, climbing, or fighting for it. The human body doesn't negotiate with dehydration. Cognitive decline begins early, and decision-making collapses even faster. People who don't understand this spend the most critical window doing absolutely nothing. People who survive act immediately. They fill containers, pots, bottles, even plastic bags, if they must. Because when everyone else wakes up to the scarcity, chaos is already forming. Then comes misinformation, the second failure most people underestimate. Humans hate uncertainty, so when a crisis hits, the brain fills in the gaps with whatever sounds comforting. Rumors spread faster than facts. Someone claims the power will be back in an hour. Someone else says a repair crew is on the way. Someone swears they heard the government has a timeline. And because people desperately want stability, they cling to these unverified timelines like they're lifelines. But in an actual blackout scenario, communication towers prioritize emergency channels, not public use. Your phone won't save you. Internet won't save you. The handful of people who understand survival don't chase updates. They verify what they can and prepare for what they can't confirm. The worst decisions are made by people waiting for information instead of acting without it. Another thing that fails early is temperature control, and nobody sees it coming. People forget that modern buildings are completely dependent on powered ventilation. You'll notice humidity first, then heat, then the smell of stale air. And if the blackout hits during cold weather, body temperature can drop dangerously before the brain even realizes it's happening. Humans are terrible at estimating thermal changes. A 2-degree shift feels like nothing until it becomes hypothermia. People waste the first hours decluttering, cleaning, organizing, scrolling their dead phones, everything except securing warmth or cooling. Meanwhile, the people who have studied survival know the priority: stabilize your body temperature before anything else. It's not dramatic, it's not exciting, but it's the difference between clear thinking and dangerous, irreversible decline. A fourth thing no one prepares for: quiet aggression. Not violent mobs, not looters running wild. Those come much later. The first 10 hours bring something more subtle and far more dangerous: psychological shift. People become territorial, impatient, reactive. Strangers seem less friendly. Arguments spark faster. Cooperation decreases. It's not because society is collapsing instantly. It's because the human brain is wired to become defensive when confronted with resource uncertainty. Even the most polite neighborhoods experience tension when the lights go out. And if you don't recognize these signals, you'll mistake evolving threats for harmless behavior. People who understand survival don't wait for hostility to become obvious. They position themselves, secure their exits, protect their supplies, and reduce unnecessary exposure to unpredictable humans. Then comes priority confusion, the silent killer of every disaster. When the world is normal, people manage tasks based on convenience. But in a blackout, convenience becomes lethal. People begin doing what feels easiest instead of what keeps them alive. They search for candles before water. They tidy their house instead of gathering resources. They stay comfortable instead of staying strategic. They check social media instead of checking their environment. They waste the most important hours doing the least important tasks. Survival isn't complicated, but humans make it complicated by letting emotions dictate actions. Those who understand the science behind crisis behavior don't follow feelings. They follow sequence: water, temperature, safety, information. That sequence alone cuts risk by 70–80%. And finally, the biggest mistake of all, expecting help. Modern life trains you to believe that someone will always come. An ambulance, a technician, a firefighter, a neighbor. Someone. But in a systemic blackout, support networks collapse first. Emergency lines overflow. Hospitals prioritize life and death cases only. Response teams are spread too thin. And no one is coming to fix your personal crisis. People who rely on rescue lose precious hours. People who rely on themselves survive. Not because they're tougher or smarter, but because they don't waste time waiting for a hero. They become their own rapid response unit. They act, they adapt, they move without permission or reassurance, and action is always faster than expectation. The first 10 hours after a blackout are not dramatic, cinematic, or chaotic. They're subtle, quiet, almost boring, which is exactly why they're so dangerous. You don't feel the danger until it's too late. Most people fail slowly without realizing it. One delay, one assumption, one misplaced priority at a time. But if you understand these unseen failures, you get something incredibly valuable: a mental advantage. And in any crisis, your mind is the first tool, the last defense, and the difference between becoming a victim or staying in control.